created the butterfly and the orchid, you're ready to create this 5-petal flower. I hope you enjoy. With this third design, we're going to use the gold background. The flower sits at the top corner of this tip. It's pretty much where I'm drawing it now. The main petal sits at the very top. With the other 4 petals drooping around it. I'm just drawing it on first to give you a better idea of where I'm intending to place it. As you can see, as I'm drawing the faint lines, it's all going into the center circle that I created. Let's start again with the magenta color, creating the fine lines. This is a sizable center that I need to do for this flower. A nice oval shape. The first petal, just the outline. Right into the center. The second petal. And the third and fourth petal are on the opposite side of the second petal, except they're drooping a bit longer down the side of the tip, creating a fuller composition. They're skinnier petals as well, to give room for them to fit in as well. But it makes it an effective flower. It feels like I'm looking at it from an underneath perspective. And the fifth petal is only a small one, kind of drooping down but not. Fifth petal is only a small one, just below the second petal. That gives you an idea of how it's going to sit. Just filling in the center now. Going to add some white on this side, while still blending in the outline that I've created. As you've noticed with all the flowers and the designs that we've done in this course, the outline disappears when we blend it in because it's actually left wet. Now I'm adding my magenta color to this other half of the petal. I'm going to go through and blend it to the white that I created in the first half of the petal. I have literally loaded just one side of the brush with the color that I'm using. So I'm not actually losing too much of the white area. but I'm getting the blend that I'm after. Small little strokes, and as you can see, there's a blend of colour throughout each stroke that I've created. Just perfecting the shade now that I'm after. Now, because I've finished off with the magenta colour on that side, I'm going to proceed with the magenta on the top of this petal, which will help in giving me the shadowing that I'm after. And then I'm going to add some of the white on this other half. It's similar to the previous flowers where I just added the dot there, but in this case, I'm just loading the brush and blending on as I go. Now I'm going to add the magenta. So now I'm going to add the white on this top half of this petal, as I finished with the white on the previous petal. As you can see, there's some discoloring from the outline, which helps in the blending of this design. It's automatically giving you the highlights and the lowlights. So now, because I finished on the big petal with the white, I'm going to use the white first. Just blending it through my outline and ensuring that there's no strength of colour of only dominance of one colour. Now I've loaded the brush with two colours, just the magenta on one side and the white on the other, concentrating on just pushing it through and blending it to the white that's already there. Wiping my brush and just a tad of magenta on one side to give it the definition and the depth of this colour on this side. Just adding more magenta. Now for the fifth petal, it sits a little bit more below that fourth petal. But before I do that, I'm going to add some more white just to blend into this side of the petal. Just perfecting the blend on this main petal. That's much nicer. The fade is nicer, it doesn't look like there's a distinct line in the center. Now for the little petal. I've loaded the brush with the two colors already, and I'm creating the ombre directly onto this petal. Because it's more lower and I wanted to show like it is more underneath that fourth petal, I've made it that the top part is darker and the magenta color is more intense on that edge of that petal. As you can see, it's showing really well defined. I'm going to perfect the center of this flower by creating that beautiful oval. And cue up for 30 seconds. Again, I've loaded my brush with the two colors, but a very small amount of color. Just on one side I have white, and on the other side of the tip I have the magenta. And I'm going through and just blending some more into that magenta color. Again, for each petal. Just defining and creating the look I'm after. Basically defining each petal. This one gives me the impression that it's more like a magnolia flower. I absolutely love it. Each time I apply new color, I am cleaning my brush on a lint-free wipe. I'm adding some whiskers. They're a little bit too chunky for my liking, so I've blended them back into the color. So now I'm adding finer whiskers, following the contour of the petal. You can see the base of the whiskers, but they are so fine to the tip of the whisker that it's hard to show on the camera. I'm adding some dots now as the stamens along the center of the flower. In several different colors, I'm doing it to give it depth. So I'm adding a bit of yellow, a bit of light pink, a bit of dark magenta, and they're just scattered around, not necessarily creating the full circle. Now for the lower petals, I'm going to add some more whiskers. Not a lot, just keeping it nice and simple and defining the petal a bit more. I feel by keeping it simple on each petal, it's not taking away from the full flower. You don't have one single point in the flower where it says to you, look at me only. Now from the top of the petals, I'm going down and creating some highlights and lowlights. These are the veins just to show definition on each petal. Now I'm just adding some freckles on the main petal. While at the same time continuing to give accent lines to the other petals to give them more of a realistic look. We're also adding some swirls and dots in the negative space of the whole composition. This not only fills the gaps, but also makes the whole thing complete. As before, what I do in the top, I do in the bottom. And cure for 30 seconds. And there you have the 3 designs that we've completed in this class. I hope you've enjoyed the course